What's up, everyone? It's Justin Kahn back with another Fractal Radio where we explore the most awesome blockchain games on the internet. And today I'm joined by the founders of Million on Mars, Eric, Mitch, and Carrie. How are you guys?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing great.
I'm good. Yeah, feeling good. I'm super excited to dive in to your guys' game. I think it's kind of one of the ones that my team has been really raving about since they got introduced to you guys. So tell us the background. How did you come to be working on Million on Mars?
So Eric and I started talking. We met a few years ago. I had just sold my last startup. He had sold one, and we wanted to work on something together. And we started talking about that. We both have teenage boys, and we wanted to do something where we were telling them stories about the future, about a future that was not dystopian, about an awesome future for humans where, we've made it into space and we're mining asteroids and we're finding resources there. And we wanted to do storytelling with games because we think that's the best way to tell stories. And so we started working on this big MMO, which is Eric's background. And we really wanted people to feel ownership of their homestead on Mars. So we looked at them owning their land deed for their 40-acre plot as an NFT. And when we started looking at that, Eric was like, I got to call my old friend Mitch. We work together at Zynga. He's deep in this space. He's always on about it on social media. And so we called Mitch, and Mitch just lit us up. And that's when, we drank the Kool-Aid. We went all in on Web3 and got really excited about what was happening with NFT gaming and built this awesome game together.
Amazing. Were you guys it sounds like two of you worked at Zynga. You guys were game developers before?
Yeah, I've been making games for 27 years.
Okay, it's a little bit of experience.
Just shy of 15 years designing games as well.
Awesome.
We could get back into Resume and other games later if there's time for that, but we're really excited about what we have right now.
Perfect. Okay, so tell me about the game. What kind of game is it? It sounds like it's a massive multiplayer online, like space themed game, or like you're on Mars. What's the gameplay?
So Million on Mars is a land-based crafting, exploration, resource management game built around a player-driven economy, all powered by NFTs. So if you've played those old traditional browser resource management strategy games that were really popular back in the day, you might find some very strong familiarity with what we have going on. But unlike those old traditional games where you would maybe hire you might maybe spend money on an in-app purchase for extra energy to refill your energy. Instead, you actually are hiring other players and working alongside other players inside of the game in this player-driven economy.
Awesome.
Yeah, Mitch and I, we both worked at Zynga, and at Zynga we had all these idle games like Mafia Wars and Vampire Wars, and players would consume energy and do actions. And when you were out of energy, back then, of course, we'd be like, well, we'll sell you more energy. We'll do the in-app purchases. We'll monetize that way. But Mitch had an extremely clever thing. It's like, no, I don't care how much money you have. When you're out of energy, no, you have to go create work orders and give it to the other players. And it made a really, really beautiful and elegant combination between the players. And that was the beginning of the player-to-player economy that's just huge now.
It's like creating a real open economy instead of like a centralized store economy that's effectively like a one company store.
Exactly.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. We have a very robust marketplace in the game with 300 different distinct objects that players buy and sell back and forth to each other, and they're constantly finding the right price between each other. They're constantly talking about it on Discord, giving us real-time feedback on how we're doing. With this insight of let's have the players create everything, own everything, and trade back and forth. It's just so beautiful and so exciting for me. I've been making online and multiplayer games, MMOs, for a really long time, but now we can really, truly realize ownership correctly.
Amazing. All right, well, let's try it out. I'm excited to try it.
So I've got my screen shared here. What I want to do is walk through what the typical experience looks like for a new player, and then I'll give you a quick little glimpse into what a more established player might look like inside of the game. So I've got my lonely little plot here to start off with, in which we have our 4 core buildings inside of the game. Everything inside of here I've kind of staged up to sort of walk you through everything. So our solar panels that we have are our solar panels are actually ready to collect these power cells that I charged earlier. And when I've completed those actions, it collects those full power cells. It also gives me a bunch of electrical experience. which is used in our profession system. So you have to progress up in in 8 different professions that you can specialize in. My greenhouse is also ready to collect the sprouts that I had harvested previously. And so I can collect all of those, and I can also plant some additional food. So I can plant some lettuce seeds, and those will get planted inside of my greenhouse.
Cool. So you're like building these buildings and generating resources.
Absolutely.
And upgrading your buildings, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything that you would see in a... Sorry, Eric.
No, sorry. I'm going to get too excited. I'm going to jump in from time to time. Mitch, if you wouldn't mind, zoom out a little bit to give Justin a little bit more context about where we are on Mars.
Sure. So you have this little tiny plot on the map is where my little homestead is, but the actual, space that it takes up on the planet is just a tiny little speck on the overall scope of the planet that's available.
Oh, wow.
So we have
awesome.
A really high degree of fidelity in terms of how accurate we are down to the very, plot specific points of where you are on the map.
Yeah, each one of these plots uses height map data from NASA's HiRISE project. So it's all a unique lat long. It's actually your plot on Mars. We've got this 2D game today, but we're anticipating a full 3D metaverse down the line where you'll be able to check out your settlement.
Absolutely.
Cool. And does each player have this plot, like one of these plots in this, hexagonal plots?
So our world allows players to have their own land, but to also work on the land of other players if they are renting it. Any player inside of the game that has an access badge can do basic actions like scavenging and work orders. So inside of the game, I can be doing actual scavenging, which will look on the land for various resources that I need, and then I can either sell those resources on the open marketplace, or I can use them to advance the crafting that I'm doing at my own home base. So everything that you make and you do inside of the game has a purpose and a meaning, and it actually matters for everything inside of the game. So when you are done scavenging and you need to regain your stamina, you have to eat food and drink water, and that food and water has to be produced by other players inside of the game, or you have to grow it.
We, the company, do not provide any food. Oh, sorry. But I jump over it. Like everything, everywhere, is player crafted and traded back and forth.
Correct. And what's so even funnier is when you're done, or when you've eaten for the day, or for your session rather, it produces waste, and that waste that you produce from eating is actually used inside of the crafting loops. It's actually used to make soil. So you actually reconstitute your waste with regolith off the earth and a little bit of power and stamina, and you actually then use the soil that's needed to grow your food. So everything matters inside of the game.
This is like a full biosphere simulation.
Absolutely. We have multiple supply chains that cover, all different kinds of productions of minerals, resources, food, water, and even actual buildings and other, and of course you can craft a rover in our game as well, which is one of the most complex things to build in the game, that you need to have access to multiple buildings or specialists with different professions to kind of complete the supply chain necessary. What I think is really unique about our game is that like I was talking about this idea of hiring other players. So instead of me spending my stamina, I can post a work order, and this will actually send out an order in real time, and other players in the game who have already sort of submitted their available bids inside of the system, it matches them automatically. So it already found other players in the game. They're now doing this work for me. So I'm able to, and that actually pays them our in-game token as well. The players are earning DUSK by actually signing up for these jobs, or they earn DUSK by finding resources and selling them on the in-game marketplace as well.
So we have players. One thing that we're super proud of is that we're a really healthy economy with a lot of upward mobility. So people start playing our game for just a $10 access badge. You come in, you can start playing, you can take jobs from other players, you can start scavenging for resources, and inside of a week or so, you can earn enough DUSK to buy your own plot of land, and you can ladder all the way up to running a big settlement where you can start renting out buildings to other players.
That's cool. So the game itself allows you to kind of do all these different jobs to participate in it. It's not just kind of one track. Yeah. It sounds like you can kind of manufacture all these different resources. You could be scavenging for different resources, and eventually build up your own business economy.
Yeah, I'm heavily
It's
into
awesome.
metalwork, and I like making rovers. And Mitch spends a lot of time in the cantina where there's a lot of fun stuff going on there. And we have a lot of experiences for different players.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'd like to unpack those 2 points that Carrie and Mitch said even harder. I'm really intensely proud that we have this organic system of sending the work orders to other players, having them do work for you, or rent their other buildings, or trade back and forth. This is, I think, a much more romantic and sustainable model than some of the other models on blockchain games where there's like super scarce NFTs that sell for thousands and thousands of dollars and you rent those to somebody else to click on it much more passively. This is a really integrated organic use of this. And even if I am a big landowner, I still have to maintain my buildings. I have to do something to even gain this passive income streams.
Yeah, it's like a much more robust simulation,
Yes.
right, of an economy.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You have to definitely actively play the game. That's the intent behind it for sure.
Yeah, so we're really proud that we've got this deep crafting game, but we're building out a whole world. We actually have a plan. We plan to build this MMO out for the long term. It's going to be here for a long time, but we have over 600 million plots on Mars, and so we're going to build a lot of experiences inside this universe. And it's all wrapped in lore in this story that we've been working on together that's set in the late 21st century. About a group of young people who are just starting to emigrate to Mars when there's a society there of a couple 100,000 people. So we hope, we think it's really exciting. It's really aspirational for our audience. Our Discord is really passionate, really engaged. They're sort of divided. They buy and sell. They're big into trading. They're big into the economy, and they're really excited about the future and about what's possible.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So like, tell me, okay, this is the library.
Yeah. So inside of the library, we actually have our actual novel that Carrie has been writing. But the players themselves can actually read inside of the game. They can earn inside the in-game research credits as well. And this serialized novel is like a really unique way of expanding our in-game metaverse. It really kind of connects everything that we're building inside of the game and outside of the game. It also ties in with our Martizens NFT project with the characters that those are based on, which we'll talk about later as well.
Yeah, she's released 3 chapters so far. Each of the 3 chapters have had more than several thousand people uniquely purchasing the chapters and reading the lore and having
awesome.
in-game utility for it.
Yeah, if you show the inventory, Mitch, so we distribute your land as NFTs, and when you upgrade your land with buildings, we update the mutable data on your NFT, but then we distribute the chapters, each with their own individual piece of art, 1 or 2 chapters per month that way, and you deposit the NFT in game in order to read the story. So it's a really innovative new way of storytelling, I think. And I think, it's amazing to be part of this Web3 revolution right at the beginning.
That's so cool. Love it. Is this the marketplace?
Yeah, this is Atomica. This is one of the secondary markets that's on the Wax chain.
Yeah.
And Mitch is showing off people who have different plots of land for sale, different rarities. But you can go look and see what they put on the chain. What upgrades they have on there. This is the tooling that we have on the Wax chain, but we are dangerously close to launching on Solana, like minutes and hours away. And Carrie should really unpack everything that's on there. But on Solana, I'm excited about getting into using the Metaplex standard and building out our own custom store. So you wouldn't have to squint and look at that Atomica metadata and go, oh, wow, it's got a water filter UC1. Okay, I'm in. No. Like, we'd have our own store and visualize this stuff beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, Carrie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so we're really proud. We're so thrilled to partner with Fractal. So I know we're going to talk about our Martizens PFP project, but what's different, we wanted to come to Solana in a big way. We've built a really passionate audience on Wax, but it's always been, our goal to get to the broadest possible audience, which is why we came to Solana as well. And in order to introduce ourselves to this new audience, we released our Martizens PFPs exclusively on Fractal, exclusively on Solana. And these PFPs are based on 18 characters that all come from our universe, from our lore, but they all have unique properties. They have professions, and you can deposit them in game and use them to automate part of running your settlement, which really sets them apart from some of the other projects we've seen. So we're pretty excited about this.
So it's a PFP project, but these Martizens are going to be, they're useful inside of your game. They can like do work in your economy.
Yes, they have their own profession.
Absolutely.
They gain their own experience points and they level up. They also help you with your automation. They also, depending on the rarity from Earth, they came with a little bit of a bankroll of some DUSK and glitter tokens in their pocket. So they've got scads and scads of utility. I double dare anybody else out there with any profile project with more fun utility.
Yeah, we went with the game first, and then the PFP sort of after the fact. The game is actually established so that it hits the ground running from the get-go, and everyone who's already established in the game can experience this as well as much as we expand on everywhere else.
Awesome. Do we have a launch date yet for it?
Mint day will be June 13th.
All right, cool. And did you decide on mint price yet?
Oh yeah. So sorry, I should have said. So we've already sold 3,500 of these to our existing community who are already in our game, and they can't wait for mint day. And then our pre-sale mint will be on June 13th. The community mint will be June 14th for 2.4 SOL.
Awesome.
A subtle thing I want to point out that I think sets us apart a bit here is, we're a live game. We're a live game for 6 months. And Justin, every week across that 6 months, we've released new NFTs. We've released Roverworks, mining rigs, pirate radios, coffee shops. We keep it fresh every week. We've got new stuff coming out, but we haven't missed it for a week, and we've sold out our drops. So we're not just like, boom, here's some magical golden shovels you got to buy. You want them. See you later. We are an actual freaking MMO that's here, and we sustain, and we have a great content cadence. If you could queue up Mitch, I'd also like you to show Justin our DUSK graph on Alcor, and we're all really proud of this too. Like every single thing about our project, every resource, every building, every little token, food, waste, we don't let it get overinflated. We don't let it turn into garbage that's just lint everywhere. We go back and we clean things up. We'll blend things. We'll make new recipes for it. We'll find utility absolutely for anything. Showing them the market view, I think, is a little better. The candlestick graph. This is our DUSK token, again on the Wax chain, but it's coming to Solana faster than most people know about. DUSK is coming to Solana. And look how rock solid stable that is. In the world of crypto, that's like a freaking glass plate for stability. Yeah. And that was through the crypto correction of just a couple of weeks ago. Look at that. We really care, and we know how to run at a cadence. So in some sense, we've got to learn a lot on Wax, make a lot of people really happy. Frankly, we made a lot of money, but also learn how to build a beautiful game. And now we're ready to come to Solana and do it right at even a much bigger scale.
So that's really reflective of, people using the currency for the game, right? Like, and having a lot of in-game syncs and usages for DUSK. DUSK? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely right. I want to point out, I always brag on this. We have not used a staking mechanic at all. If you've looked at other games, we are not, kind of a dressed up GameFi game. Everything in our game is about being a real MMO and about engagement. And so all of the syncs, the sources and syncs are balanced, and it's all gameplay.
Yep.
Cool. And you're constantly adding, it sounds like you're adding new buildings, new recipes, new syncs for the many different resources that are out there.
Absolutely.
Every week. We've got content for years.
I'm not talking out of my ass. Our players often tell us, slow down. You're giving us too much stuff.
Yeah, our treasury tracks everything that we've burned outside of or burned from our in-game economy. So to date, we've burned 30 million DUSK tokens from in-game transactions, in which most things that happen in the game, 80% of those fees we take away and just throw them away. Only 20% we actually store inside of the treasury, in which we redistribute back into our play and own economy. For the most part, every time we add new features and systems to the game, we make sure that we incorporate the treasury in this as well, so that players have the ability to, they're contributing to the actual balance of the economy by participating in it.
And what's the end goal for players, do you think? Is it to build the most, like the biggest economy, or are people, what are people building towards?
So I love the Bartle player diagram. Bartle was the first guy to get a PhD in game design a long, long time ago. He talks about how some people play games because they're socializers, some are explorers, some are achievers. He originally used the term killer, which is like PvP, and he did a whole lot of research about it. And it turns out different people are different archetypes at different points in their career in their game. I feel it's super important that you do not have one end goal, Justin. There has to be multiple end goals, and there has to be an ecosystem of end goals. Some of the players are going to want to geek out and become the best at our rover versus rover arena battles that we'll be shipping sometime this summer. Some people are going to want to collect a full set of 18 Martizens and just have a perfect collection. And some people are going to want to produce the absolute most amount of titanium aluminum plate and super geek out on the spreadsheet and make more profit than anybody else. There are different players and there's different end games for them. And it's really important that you identify that and fund the different end games for the different players and then have them play together in one blended world. That's how you make a really sustainable, strong MMO for the long term.
And I want to see us end on that and say, the end goal for us is that people are inspired, that my son, who's 12 and is a huge gamer, goes to engineering school and wants to bring forward a future that's exciting, and isn't dwelling on all the negative challenges that we have in the world.
Yeah, it does seem like every game is dystopian now and like kind of about a fallen world. And what I like about the graphics and kind of like it seems like this characters and the intent of this game is, it seems like it's really about building and kind of creating a sustainable economy or building something up. It's like a very
building a new world.
Like, Carrie's got a lead villain character, Velma, in her story, and Velma builds an artificial magnetosphere to protect Mars from the solar wind that she calls Mamify, right? And the idea is if you can protect Mars from the solar wind, then Mars on its own naturally outgasses gases from its surface and regolith, and it would build up an atmosphere pretty fast. And that's not bullshit. Dr. Jim Green just left NASA, the chief scientist, to go found a private company to go build an artificial magnetosphere for Mars. So we absolutely want to almost cheerfully, aggressively, subversively bring people excited, have them trained, have them learn how to use a Sabatier reactor. A Sabatier reactor is from the 1890s, where you take carbon dioxide and you take hydrogen from splitting water, you put that together, get methane. And once you have methane, you can go ahead and have methane fuel cells. You can have rocket fuel. You can put that in your rover and travel long distances. You can start plastics. You can start your fuels. You can do all kinds of things. So we want to bring this stuff forward and show that to people and have people, as gamers, gamers will just get entitled to it. Like, where's my goddamn great future? I know how it works. I've been playing it,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with there's this theory called the hieroglyph theory that is quoted a lot. The most notable example is a lot of the engineers who worked on the original iPhone said that they had kind of a common frame of reference for what this handheld device could be that was more than a phone, because they'd grown up watching Star Trek and they'd seen a tricorder, right? So, we need symbols, we need images of what the future can be so we can rally around them and be inspired to bring them forward. And that's really what we're trying to do, but we're trying to do it by in a subversive way, by letting you have fun, letting you craft and explore and have fun.
I love that.
And we're just getting started too. This game has got such a beautiful roadmap going forward, and we have a beautiful team. We know how to work. We launch on Solana. I don't know if Carrie, you want to chat about Glitter at all?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, and it has to be Web3, right? Because Web3, because the metaverse is just a better MMO, and it has to be Web3 because of the border busting properties of Web3. You know, our player base is global. This is about, you know, a positive future for all humans and about breaking existing paradigms that we have. So I don't think we could have done this on Web 2. I think this is completely native to this whole new way of thinking.
Do you think people will build, like, what kinds of experience, do you think people will build things that interact or interoperate with your economy?
Well, you put that.
Oh, absolutely.
Put that on a T-ball stand
Eric,
for us. I've got a couple of concrete examples of that. One of our most hardcore players goes by a nickname of Lamp. He wired up early on a whole bunch. He was using our endpoints and collecting our market data with our permission. And he built up a whole bunch of beautiful spreadsheets that all the other players were using to figure out how to min-max their play. He's such a great guy. Over time, we ended up hiring him, and he's one of our principal engineers, and he's a fantastic guy. So that's one example of players building upon what we're doing, pulling it together. But even better than that, we are just now pulling off something pretty groundbreaking. I don't know if anybody else has done this. We've partnered with Sunflower Land, a game on the Polygon network. Those players are all into a farming crafting game on a cute, you know, retro 8-bit style world, right? They're players, parts of guilds that often play our game back and forth, back and forth. And so they start to get our attention. They like our character, Leon Dusk, in our world. And so they made a Melon Dusk in their world who had crashed his wooden rocket and needed help getting back to Mars. And so they have a quest chain over there where you get started helping Melon Dusk, and then you get to a certain stage and you get sent over to us over in the Wax chain.
Oh,
and they come over and play our game, go through a whole quest chain. They learn how to do the land. They learn how to do what just Mitch showed you with the greenhouse and the water and everything like that. They learn the basic gameplay. They grow 7 sunflowers. All right. And then they earn this achievement where we then, because we link to their Polygon wallet, what's really important to us is that our game is for humans. I'm super passionate. And Polygon, Sunflower Lands also feels that way. They're really great people. They've really scrubbed it out. So just have human players. We have just human players. So we look at their Polygon wallet. You're good. You've gone through that quest chain over there. You finish our quest chain. Boom, we print you back an NFT on the Polygon chain, and they unlocked the completed finished rocket and the completed finished observatory over there in Sunflower Land. So it's working. The metaverse stuff is
That's so cool. Yeah.
And this is just the beginning. We want to build long-term relationships with the best quality teams and projects across every blockchain, because we intend to be as chain agnostic as we can maintain in the future as well.
I love that interoperability, and like I think I agree. We're just seeing the surface of like what people can do with each other. And when your projects are open and the economies are open, the people are going to create all sorts of different cool integrations and applications that sit on top of other people's economies.
Definitely.
Love it.
Yeah, we're just at the very beginnings of this stuff for sure.
Cool. So anything else that we didn't cover that you want to get across is really exciting?
I think we should talk a little bit about you guys and your previous experiences.
Yeah.
So I got my start in the industry as a tester, but eventually broke out and got a job as a designer at Zynga. So I've pretty much only designed free-to-play games or free games in my entire professional career. I've never made a paid product, really. It's sold for $60. I've never done AAA console games. Everything I've done has been on Facebook, MySpace, or mobile. And now back in the browser, now that we're in Web3 again, since we're not really trying to be beholden to the platform holders of our yesteryears and their demand for 30%. My passion and my specialization is in economy design and systems design. So I've worked really long on building the sort of idle, invest, express type games, the sort of Ville style games that Zynga was popularizing. When I was there, I worked on Cityville. More recently, I was in the idle game space where I worked on an idle game called Weed Inc., which is a popular idle game on the phone as well. But you know, working in Web3 is without a doubt the most exciting thing I've been able to do in my career, and it really reminds me of the beginning era of when social games on Facebook were just taking off, and people were very much criticizing the players of those games, calling them not real gamers and stuff like that. Like this, I get so much deja vu from that 2009 era.
Yeah,
I think that's where I met Eric, by the way. He was the general manager at Zynga and Mafia Awards. Please, but tell everyone else. Sorry.
No. Thank you for the warm intro, sir. Thank you. I started making games in 1994, and my very first game was actually an MMO. It was called PlanetNet, and we were building an isometric client front end on top of Lambda Mu. And it was really fun. It was really creative, way ahead of its time. After that, I went off and founded a few different game companies. I built the Starfleet Command series of games, and I'm intensely proud of the second title in that series, Starfleet Command 2, where I built a neat architecture where we used the land-style, majestic naval ship-to-ship combat. But at the end of that land gameplay, we sent the results up, not to our Super Central server, but to fan-run MMOs on consumer desktop boxes in 2001, where they've run campaigns for months and months and years, where they take their starships back, repair them, upgrade them, and go back out. And people are still playing these games today on there. I still think we made the strongest Star Trek game ever made. And then after that, in 2003, I moved to South Korea, because in 2003, the microtransaction model was birthed in South Korea, you know. And I had to go there. I built GoPets. GoPets, I stumbled into it. Really, GoPets really is a very natural Web3 game, but way early. You know, I had land, I had premium land, I had not one token, I had gold shells, but you know what else I had? I had green shells, I had pink shells. So the gold shells were for fiat, the green shells were just inflationary for participation, and then pink was somewhere in between about social stuff. I ran into problems where my green shells got overinflated, and I had to go figure out how to clean it up, and ran a St. Patrick's Day cleanup special. And then I woke up the next morning on my surprise on eBay. I had no more green shells in my economy to worry about at all, and that people were buying them with gold shells. I learned how to do that. I learned how to have people make their own clothing and sell it back and forth to each other for minimum prices. Ended up selling that company to Zynga, becoming half of the Farmville team, was on Farmville for a little while, turned over into Mafia Wars, became a general manager, worked with Mitch. At Zynga, I was really excited and pioneered the integrated cross promo. I was the driving force behind the hot rod tractor in Farmville. About that time, in the beginning, you had to like click your crops one by one by one by one. It was really tedious. And so worked with a bunch of people that I had on my team from GoPets that were still inside of Farmville, but I was on Mafia Wars. And on Mafia Wars, on the GM there, I need a lot of traffic. Farmville had more traffic. Mafia Wars was making more money. Give me your players. So the players would come over and play Mafia Wars, get to level 10. If they got to level 10, they got back to Farmville, and they had a hot rod tractor that can plow 9 plots of land at a time. Or they could just pay direct in Farmville for $20. The result was I had 10 million people come in and try Mafia Wars in 1 week.
It's wild.
And they stuck around. I had 1 million Farmville players continue to play Mafia Wars for 9 months after that.
Amazing.
So yeah, I've also written a book in 2008 about Settlers of the New Virtual Worlds, and I talk about how mean and awful the end user license agreement is and how it's a violation of human rights. And it didn't sell a whole lot, to my surprise, that people don't want to read books about end user license agreements. In hindsight, it seems natural, but at the time I thought it was a good idea. I just love it. And what we're doing now is building MMOs. We're building them better because we can better attribute the economics across the players completely, from free-to-play players, worker players, social players, streamers, guilds, what have you. We can better participate, better chop up and distribute the economics rather than throwing a 30% profit to a big tech company that doesn't even need it.
Yeah, I love it. Carrie, how about you?
I've been in consumer electronics a long time. In the 2000s, I was working on building cord cutting devices. I built the first. I was in consumer semiconductor, and I licensed, Netflix and YouTube to be on Blu-ray players and help people get into cord cutting. And then I got into consumer IoT, and I built a company called Bowie Labs. And actually, that's where I first met you. You came into Highway 1, the hardware accelerator, Brady Morris hardware accelerator in San Francisco, and I was in that cohort there. And I built that company. It was great. But, and I got to say, building an MMO on Web3 is about as hard as building a consumer IoT company. But it's a lot of fun. It's just as much fun. So I grew that and I sold it to Residio, which had just spun out of Honeywell in 2019. And that's how I met Eric, and the rest is history.
Congrats. Well, guys, it seems, it's a really awesome start. I can't believe you built so much in only 6 months. Seems like a pretty
Oh,
fully
thank you.
functioning
Yeah.
ecosystem already with thousands of players, and that's awesome.
And they're human.
We're relentless.
And they're human
Cool.
players.
So they're human players. They're not bots. They're not
Yeah.
arbitrage
human
bots.
players.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're human players.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And Mitch has been like quietly playing his account over here in the background, making his.
This is what Mitch
economy
does.
go.
Mitch
We
is
have
like,
players that play for hours every day. So, you know,
Mitch.
you can, there's a,
Yeah.
the game tries to respect your time, but if you have a lot of things or you want to do a lot of stuff in the game, it certainly allows you to as well.
Cool, guys. Well, we'll look for the mint on June 14th, the community mint with Fractal. Thank you so much for partnering with us. And yeah, it's exciting. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you very much. I
Can't wait.
also
thank you so much for
for
having us. We're thrilled.
thank you for everything you've built, and thank you for building Fractal and trying to make a next generation game focused ecosystem.
I mean, I'm having so much fun with it, to be honest. It's like, it's fun to be back in games, number one, but just, I'm really excited about like Web3 games particularly. I think you said it earlier. It's like, it really reminds me of early free-to-play, early mobile, in that there's a lot of naysayers, a lot of skeptics, like, oh, these aren't real games. You know, they probably haven't seen your game, but like a lot of them are like, oh, these aren't real games. But you're like, you can see it coming. You know, people are building the games, and in, I think, 6 months or a year, it's like really gonna start to be there. And then I think this model just makes a lot of sense where, like you said, you distribute ownership, people actually own the things that they have in the games in it. And then what I'm really, really excited about is for these games to become platforms on top of which people build all sorts of different experiences, games, programs, applications, and that to me is like what the metaverse becomes, is like this, kind of like have on the application layer, there's like just all these different programming, different programming layers and stacks that interoperate on top of each other. Like we're going to have that on top of games where people are, I don't know, they're like, you're building buildings and trading them for sunflowers and, like stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you look back at the 90s and the early aughts, but especially the 90s, when id Software was releasing Doom and Quake, and Epic had Unreal, and you started having that mod community build around these games, right? The mod community, you could have a set piece, great LucasArts, beautifully designed, fun little story game. Sure, that's great. But they didn't spawn these, like, essentially mini industries around this game from that modding. Yeah. So I love what you're saying. I've been listening to a bunch of your Fractal Radio shows, and I suspected you were going to ask that. In fact, Kerry backed me up. I said he's going to talk about that. Yeah. And that I do think that's the thing. It's beautiful being able to build the tooling and have it be emergent, have players build more and more connections on each other. But now we can also get the accounting correct. We can figure out who contributed, and we can properly remunerate them for their contributions. And that allows people to invest more and more. And that was, it's going to be so different. And then if I can rat hole for just a little bit on the whole play to earn thing, we intensely talk about ourselves as play and own. That's really important to us. Play, got to have a great game, and you got to own your stuff, right? I don't like games that call themselves, play to earn, because I think it makes it too much of a focus on, just click on this thing and you're going to get some coins and you're going to make some money. I don't like that, right?
Yeah, but it's not sustainable, right?
It's not sustainable. But soberly, look at it as a marketing program, and clearly a marketing program. And you say, hey, look, I need to acquire users. Free to play was the answer. How do you get past retail? How do you get past Electronic Boutique and Best Buy? How do you get your product there? Before you had to go work with Electronic Arts or Activision, I did that. You go work with those guys. They're going to be the publisher. They're going to take the lion's share of the money. The retailer is going to take a bunch of money. By the time you, the developer, the one that actually makes the game, you get a very, very small piece of the pie. Okay, so then free to play happened. Free to play is way better. The doors are open. Everybody can go. Try the game out for free. It's shareware writ large. Okay, try it for free. Woohoo! You can kind of grow. That model worked pretty well, but now the world's saturated with games. There's a lot of great games out there. There's great games on your mobile phone, on your desktop, console games, a lot of stuff. So what's the next thing better? Play to earn. I'll pay you to play the game. Okay, great. That's sexy. That's fun. It's really frothy right now. Oh, okay, gosh. Step it, right? But the way I think about it is you look at play to earn as your marketing program and you say, look, how much is it? What is my lifetime value of my players? By what type of player? By North American players, by Southeast Asia players, by workers, by dolphins, by whales. Know these numbers, understand it, make a budget for that. And if you make a budget for that, then you can sustainably pay them. You can say, that's great, man. Go out here and go do jobs, and here's how much DUSK you're going to earn. And I know how much it's going to be. Mitch and I can balance it. We can sleep easy at night. We can watch our little DUSK graph be stable. We know what we're doing because we're intentional about it.
Yeah, that's a really, I think, balanced way to think about it. That fits into existing real paradigms for how much players are worth in these economies. Love it. Cool, guys. Well, thank you so much, Eric, Mitch, Carrie. Thanks for joining me. This is a great conversation. I'm excited about the game. You guys are it looks super fun, and I really love the theming on it too.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you for making Fractal. Thank you for making a great place for us to launch our Martizens on Solana.